first thing that we see here is a flight into eastern Tibet. Hannah and I spent 10 days very sick in Chengdu, in the western Chinese town, and now we're going further west into Tibet. And the mountains that you see here are actually the Himalayas. Just a few of them are Chinese, the rest of them are Tibetan. They are actually a continuation of the Himalayas, but instead of going east-west as the Himalayas do, they go north-south. You see here how we begin to land. And the next picture you see is a Dharma wheel, the wheel of truth, on the holiest place in Lhasa called the Jokang. Here are some of the different traditional Tibetan ornaments that you see. The last one is a Kalachakra symbol, and here you see the Tibetans doing what they've been doing for the last 1,000 years. They're offering up incense to scare away negative energies, to invoke positive energies. And you get the whole free feeling, the whole wide feeling of the place. You also see a lot of people doing prostrations, meaning opening their centers of body, speech and mind and sliding out to their full length. And in this way, feeding a maximum of positive impressions into their mind. Here you see somebody teaching her kid. And they don't mind learning because they can feel from the parents that Dharma is a good thing. So, they don't mind learning it themselves. It's just children in cultures that have no roots, that mind learning. In cultures where things make sense, the kids don't mind. And everybody does it, you see, the old lady and so on. And here's somebody offering what's called a mandala. And if you really look at the text, one has to do things in a very complicated, special way, but not everybody reads the text and not everybody cares. Here again is a big open area in front of the Jokang, and it's a very Tibetan scene. Very Tibetan. Quite a few pictures here showing clearly that Tibetans are not vegetarians. They really are not, and they probably couldn't survive where they are for that. Here's butter, and there's the local wise guy getting a little bit for himself. This is the meat market. The big fellow there, with the hair around his head is a kampa. And there's a lady there trying to check out where the bones are and where the meat is, and to get the meat and not the bones. Here's somebody who works very hard. He's doing not the ordinary around the place prostration that we see. He is doing the prostrations to open up body, speech and mind, right on the street. And here some praying officially. And you can actually live from that. The interest in religion is so deep that whoever sits down to do a puja will really be nourished. It's said to be one of the signs of the blessing of the Buddha's teaching that whoever concentrates on it will be fed. This is a normal way around the Jokang, all the traders, all the people from different parts of the Tibetan culture coming together. And here's a beautiful girl of the clan. And she's really getting self-conscious now. She has the camera on her. She's trying to make her friend, put on a smart face. And when he doesn't, she scratches him a bit, and, well, human way to be. Actually very interesting. Here's Ilse, she was with us on the tour, the blonde-haired one. And here am I in action. I never know how the Tibetans find out that I carry some of the holiest relics of the come-up, but they do. They come up, say Lama, put their heads in front of me. And I probably blessed people last life also, because whether I want to or not, suddenly my hand is out there touching them, and then to really make it less personal, and because it's more important for the people to really be touched by these relics, and I get them off my chest and start touching them the way I do here. And it's really a good feeling. The energy passes over and something very good happens. And I always make sure that people don't just believe, but that they know where the things come from and what they are. So here I'm saying the mantra of our main teacher, the Karmapa, saying Karmapa Cheno, means activity of all Buddhas, think of me, become one with me. And everybody is happy and it has a lot of meaning. But it was a rough tour. I did 40 minutes of solid blessing that day, or maybe I did longer, but the video this was taken from has 40 minutes of solid blessing, but we didn't want to bother you with all of that. Here we see the churd, which is a meditation of actually cutting all attachment and offering all of our body to whoever wants it. And here's somebody who's discovered the quick prostration way around the jokang. He's really got it worked out. He slides his whole length before touching the ground, and he's a professional. Here then is a shop where they're selling all kinds of little trinkets and things. And here again we are on the wide open area, this time with a lot of nomads who come down. This lady here is giving a tsatsa, a form containing 3 Buddhas which prolong our life. And here's a poor boy, who's really in trouble with the scabs on his hand and who's sitting there begging. People are constantly moving around the jokang, and here we see them moving underneath the potala with a great view of that place. It's a beautiful palace, but we were in there, I was in there a couple of times, and I detected no blessing at all. It seems that the Chinese have really been able to disgust away all the positive energies which used to be up there. They've made it into a museum, and that's what it is. I don't know if a Dalai Lama comes to be there again, maybe all the old good energies go back, but the way it is now, it feels very funny. Here again are some of the roofs where the different Dalai Lamas are lying, their remains, their bodies, often in very special forms, not decomposed, but in complete shape, and sometimes with hair and nails still growing, are lying there. And here are 3 gentlemen from the People's Liberation Army who had the kindness to come to Tibet and drive all the best people into exile. Here we have the Serto, and these gold-plated things, they mean dignity, that the place is something special. And you see here the ceilings, how beautiful old Tibetan architecture really was. The few places it's still standing. Here we have a view over the Lhasa Valley in different directions. And here is the Chinese town. The Chinese town has absolutely no culture. And there's no connection between the Tibetans and the Chinese. I met Chinese who had been in Tibet for 10 years. They couldn't even say hello in the language of Tibet. And here is a path around the potala where people go around again and again. You see them here. Here's the backside of the potala. And here you see some of the mural paintings that have been refreshed and renewed because the old ones had been destroyed. Actually, the colors don't always fit. Now we come to a place where there aren't many houses standing, but which the Buddhas didn't leave. It's a place called Tsurbo. It's the main seat of the Karmapas, of the first incarnate Lama of Tibet, and the greatest yogi of Tibetan Buddhism. And his monasteries were destroyed because his people were heroes. Most of his students were Kampas, and they fought the Chinese hard and direct. And for that reason, afterwards, the massive monastery was destroyed more than most other things. You see it here. But you also see some of that which has been rebuilt. The white building there is in the process of becoming a beautiful big temple. And every cent that we Westerners have been sending there, and Hannah and I brought a lot of money, and Bokatulko especially really gave a lot of money. Every cent that was spent there is coming to very good use. I mean, very good use. Here you see some of the ruins. They brought out the proletariat from Lhasa every week, and at gunpoint they forced them to destroy the place over the period of a year and a half. An old nun was hiding in the mountains and she cried her eyes out. She saw it all. Here are some of the statues that were destroyed. You can still see the fine proportions of the bodies. And I've made some blessing strings there, and I'm going around to have them blessed at the different places because the energy is really still there. Here you see what I think of the Chinese and their destruction. And now we go on through the different walls. Here's a small place where the first Karmapa Düsumchempa meditated, and which has been restored, and inside it, you will see in a moment, is a picture of Düsumchempa. There he appears. It's actually quite amazing that he should appear like that, because there's no light in there, and we had no source of light on the camera. It's really like a blessing that it could be photographed. And here's Hannah, and we're all putting money in there, and some more ruins. And here's a very special place where the enormous statue was positioned that the second Karmapa built there, with all the gold and silver that he'd been given by the Chinese. And here you see how a smart man gets some of the relics, to see how quickly I put the Tibetans in a position where they have to give it to me. Here, look, I say, these are tsatsas. Wow, then I take a blessing from it. Can I get one? Then afterwards, because I feel a bit bad, I start showing my own blessings, right? I show my relic box, which His Holiness the Karmapa has filled himself, and I tell what's inside it. And here we see some more destruction. It's from the part of the temple made by Jalsa Rinpoche, apparently blown up by dynamite. And here we see Hannah pointing out some of the signs in the stone.
You know the story?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Yeah, well, the horn didn't get bigger and Milepa didn't get smaller. But he was there and he was singing to Rechungpa.
From Milarepa's story, right? You could follow that. 1,000 years ago. Here you have a few instances of seeing how beautiful the wall paintings were before everything was destroyed and the water ran down, and all this was painted. Every single room was painted. They really did good work, the Tibetans. It was very beautiful. And they should have built in armored concrete with the people who were coming for them. More destroyed places. And here the retreat place which has been built up as true Kajus and followers of the Karmapas and the Milarepa. Then the first place we always build are the retreat places. Here's the end of the valley, and here we're standing again, and I'm making the blessing knots which we put the energy of a certain Buddha into, and which we then give people to wear around their necks in order to charge them up with that energy. Here's a first built monastery at the place, rebuilt underneath the stupa here. And here we're giving some pictures to the local people. They're totally unbashful or shameless or whatever in accepting things. and give them 10 things and still hold out their hands for the 11th. On the other hand, they don't keep them with themselves, they pass them on to others, so everything's all right. And they don't sell them. I mean, they really do pass them on. But look at how many this fellow got. Here again we are having a view of the first reconstructed building in Turku. This is the entry. These are 2 of the 4 guardians guarding the 4 directions. Here's a lady Buddha called Dölka. And here is the main temple building which is being used now. In the upper 2 windows, Hannah and I slept the first night that we came, or the one night that we were there the first time. And I actually saw the local protector. It was a blessing and a shock at the same time. It was amazing. Here we see some of the fine temple scrolls. And what I'm doing there with bowing down actually means opening the energies of body, speech and mind to all the Buddhas. This is what the thing means. Here behind the glass are some of the Buddhas of the lineage. There's Dorji, Chang, Tilopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Gambopa, Kamapa, whom we have here. This is Gambopa. This is Milarepa. This powerful one is Marpa. Here again, the retreat place up on the hill. This is nearly 5 kilometers altitude. Here's Drupal Dechin. He is a true and remarkable yogi. I mean, true and remarkable. Great teacher. Here are some of the luxurious beds used, just to make sure you don't sleep too long in the morning. And here we are looking from the retreat center down over Turku and the Turku Valley. It's a very good view. And here's Mahakala. Mahakala is a great protector of our lineage. It's an immensely powerful Buddha aspect. And he is here, you know, at the cliff or at the rock entering into the Turku compound. And his blessing is beyond words. He's very, very special. He saved my life several times. Here on the way back, we are at a spontaneously arisen Chenrezig statue. While Hannah is explaining in German, I'll translate it here. In 1959, the whole lower part of this spontaneously arisen statue disappeared. And as soon as they were allowed to start building again, it came out once more. And here is the summer palace of the Karmapa, and we're just taking blessings from his special life tree. We're scratching little pieces of wood and so on that we bring back to our friends as a blessing. And most centers in Europe and America, especially the one in Marin, already has things like that. It's a kind of poplar tree as far as I can see. Here are some more destroyed walls and monasteries. And here is a picture of a while after the money that Bokatulku and we gave actually made them able to hire people, and the new more free directions of the Chinese allowed for people to work and even live near the place. We were out there with 35 people working hard, and some of the pictures you'll be seeing here was from the time when we were there.
Yeah. Okay, Ole.
Here they got new wood from Kongpo from southern Tibet, which has to travel 2 weeks in a truck in order to get to them. And everything is done with hand tools, no electricity, nothing. This is the main temple we helped them build. Our 35 Scandinavians and Germans were working here to build it all up. And you can see how well they work. I mean, the style is as good as before, and it's amazing, the work. It's really good, well done. Here, to keep it all together, they're putting metal around it. And you can see the woodwork, how exquisite it really is. Actually, there's a lot of Greek influence, Dorian, Aeolian and Ionian influence in the different pillars and the structure of the temples. And it's well made. It's wonderful to see that the old quality is not so much superior to what they're doing today. Only thing is, not getting any cement, they have to put earth between the different stones, but again that doesn't matter if there are stones enough and it doesn't rain. And usually it only snows, it really doesn't rain. And anyway, they have enough people to put it up again, put up the walls that come down. Here you see the exquisite carving work that has been done. You see all the different ornaments that have first been cut into a thin layer of wood, and this thin layer of wood has then been put on the pillar itself, and this then becomes the ornament. And look here, this was what it looked like the first time. And here one of the group pictures that Tibetans always like so much. And the little fellow in the front we call the beaver. And it's actually his heroic endurance, his hard work, which has made it possible for us to do the things in Tsurbo we wanted to do. It's due to him. And these 4 people had made themselves monks, probably because they were monks in former lives. Not just because the girls were drinking butter tea, but because they really had a strong tendency towards it. And here are some of these old ones, the old monks there. They've been damaged. I mean, they've really been tortured to a point where they're not fully functioning today. But still they're brave, they do their best, and I mean, it's actually touching. So having been there, we decided that Lhasa was full of tourists, or would be anyway very soon when the weather got warm. So we got on a truck going to the south and afterwards to the east. So we drove all night to get out of Lhasa before the Chinese border posts and the different guards were armed, and out there looking for people. And we actually managed to go around the whole thing, and here we are on our way. Here we are waiting for darkness to fall so we can pass on, because most of Tibet is traveling at night. During the daytime, from 8 morning to 6 afternoon, the Chinese are at the post, so nobody travels because they get checked out and asked and so on. And when the Chinese go home, everybody travels, so that's the way Tibet is. China at day and Tibet at night. This fellow here in the frock or apron, it's called, he had done the whole way to Lhasa on prostrations. And up here is where we used to live. It was beautiful in the snow, lying there in our sleeping bags looking out. Here Hannah is fixing some things. And here we're getting some nice food. We brought our own protein powder and a few other things that Westerners like, because we didn't like all the greasy fat things that the locals ate. And then we mixed it with the tsampa and so on, and it was, well, as delicious as you get it there. Anyway, the people were wonderful. This place is called Bomi, and it's where most of the wood of Chinese is being pulled off the mountains. Here's an old monastery that's been destroyed. Not much is left. all the holes you always see is where the different planks used to go through to hold the ceiling. Om Wagi Shori Mom, Om Mani Pema Hong, Om Benza Pani Hong. And here's the young couple, you know, on a holiday. And here it's cold, I tell you, this is cold. This is evilly, really cold. We're going over a pass that's close to 18,000 feet. It's in the depth of winter. It's eastern Tibet or central eastern Tibet, and it's cold. Some of these stretches here, you know, not many cars get through, and many cars, you know, have a few dead people on them by the time they arrive, because people just can't take the exposure. It's really cold. I mean, we're suffering there. We take care of our women, of course, make sure they get all the heat and everything that they need, but I mean, it's cold. Here we've just been in a place called Chamdo, and now we are on our way. We had to flee the town because the police started looking for us, so we had to very quickly, when nobody looked, get on the back of a truck, and we are now driving up towards a place called Kamagön. In one day we are driving as far as we can on a truck, and after that there are 2 days of horse riding. And here it's one of those wonderful situations where there aren't so many people that, you know, I can't really go into blessing every one of them. It's much more satisfactory to feel the energy go in and feel the whole power field being transferred. But you'll also see I don't just give the people the strings for long life and blessing, but I always insist on not just believing, but knowing. So in my best Tibetan, which isn't so good actually, I'm just telling them, you know, who gave the initiations that are on the strings and what the meaning of them is and so on. They're not quite used to that. They're more used to just getting strings. But I mean, I really think people should know. I mean, if you're going to help others, you know, you've got to know what helped you, right? So, well, this is just a cut from the whole long thing. If you saw the whole long thing, you would see them turning around again and again in order to get, you know, more strings. This is second to last stop on the way before no car can drive anymore. And you see all the people coming out. They've never seen people like us. There's never been a white person here before. So they're just looking and thinking, what is that? You know, they're really... And now they begin to feel that there might be something religious or something special there. They're just getting up to the feeling. And now here they come, right? Here they come. And I always try to give them the different strings first, which have been blessed by my own teachers, you know. But after a while, then that isn't enough. And then I take out the box with the Kamapa's relics, and at that time, you know, they really get benefit. They all push, but there's not an angry face, that's not a bad feeling among any one of them. They all do their best, and what they get is blessing, and what they don't get is purification. Now the more important part of putting the relics on their heads. And you'll see this little green fellow, for instance, how often he comes up there pretending he isn't there. In the end, and that's not on this tape, he actually borrowed a hat from somebody to look as if he was there for the first time. So, I mean, they know what is good and they don't mind having it a few times. It took a long time. It's just a bit of the whole situation here, but it's enough to get an idea. But actually it's meaningful. Some of these people haven't been seeing a lama since 59, and they're very happy. And also it's amazing the way they smell you out. They look at you, you know, they feel something, and suddenly you have their head there at your chest and they expect a blessing. Look at the old lady there, how happy she is. And they heard about that for so long, back to the time when Tibet was free. That happened all the time. Now for so many years it didn't happen. Here again there's a time to give a proper blessing. That is the last place. That's where every truck stops, because nobody can go past that place. From there then we'll be going for 2 days on horses. And all the blessings on horses nobody could photograph, because Peter's horse was so wild that he was thrown, that, you know, he had enough trouble just staying on it. It's nice to really have time to concentrate on the people and give them some blessings. And these fellows with the red strings in their hair, they're real Kampas. They're the warrior tribe. They're the exciting people in Tibet. And here you see us crossing over the bridge. And this is how the caravan looks for the next 4 days, except when the horses throw sometimes one and sometimes another man off, as they do. And here, after a night at a place called Tybetu, we are now here at the last stretch, icy stretch, where we have to walk on a river before we get to Kamagurn. And here everybody is waiting for us. And Kamagurn, you know, was built by the first Karmapa around 1150 or 60. It's one of the first things he made after his full enlightenment. And here we are just greeting the people and also bowing down to this place, because it's something very holy and special. It's really a special, fantastic place. Here we see that there isn't as much destroyed as we're used to. The Eastern Tibetans are braver than the Central Tibetans. They would defend their things and their people more. And of course, Chinese could come like thieves in the night and blow up a few things, but as soon as the Tibetans knew what was happening, they started shooting them, so they had to get out again. And here are some of the very fine tankas that have been preserved. They really have a fine collection of that. All the scrolls hanging there, exquisite work, much of it in the Kamakatri style, the style made by the 8th Karmapa. And here, you know, I'm just looking at what they read and praising the locals, saying, very good place. And here the monk there, who's a very important man for the resurrection, he for the first time sees a camera. He'll be looking into it a few times later also. And here we are, you know, we are passing on the information, we are telling them what had happened. And this strong man here, he's amazing. He is really a protector of the Dharma. Here some of them sitting, you know, and the upper one is a tulku of Karl Rinpoche's, but he's been too damaged, you know. He was very difficult to make contact with him, you know. He was really like, he'd been harmed, he clearly had. Here is the main Buddha, which is a replica of the old Buddha that was destroyed when the Chinese came. And we see here some of the bodhisattvas and things around it. And Pedro is just telling me to stay for a moment for a shot. He says, stand. And here you see the face, the meditational eyes, the whole beauty of it. And much of it is clay, but a lot of it is also already covered by copper. And all the holy things from the old Buddha were actually preserved. Some things a little bit tattered because it was blown up, but everything was there. The Chinese didn't know what it was and didn't take it along. It's made in the beautiful Alchi style. It's called an age-old style, which you also find in Ladakh. And you know it by the off-white bodhisattvas and their long stomachs. They have exceedingly long stomachs always. That's a special sign of them. Here you see some murals that have been destroyed by water. And here we are looking up, and I'm telling the monk a lot of things he knows already, of course, because he lives there, he's always been there. And here's a little fellow who carries everything. He's not weak. I hope he gets overpay, he gets overtime. He's been down there holding the thing for a long time. Here we see the bottom of the statue with the stairs leading up there, which I was just standing on. And Hannah looks very pleased, as she always does when good things happen, and actually so do I. And here's where they do the Mahakala pujas all the time. But actually, during the years where everything was suppressed, they lost some of their style. Their pujas are not as good as they are among the exiles. So they'll have to have some people come up from India and teach them again. Here's the 9th Karmapa who did very important work here in Kamagun. Here we have him again, 9th Karmapa. And here the others of the lineages who've been carrying the blessings down to here a modern wooden shrine for the books, and here again the 9th Karmapa. Now we are hearing about the surroundings, how the different Karmapa energies have been manifesting in the different hills and mountains and places and open spaces around. And here we see that the monk did discover the camera. Now he's looking for it all the time. But I mean, he never saw anything like that before. And here the pointed place, the rock up there is where the 2nd Karmapa meditated, Karmapakshi. And the half moon shaped part of the mountain above the roof is one of the signs that Gambopa gave the first Karmapa when he told him where to make monasteries. He said, look for a place like that. And all the other signs also fit, and that's why this Kamagun appeared where it was. Here's some stones where I honestly don't remember what they mean. There are some special signs and impressions on them, but I don't know. And here's Hannah.
Karmapakshi came from China, and then the king of Hor requested him, to work for the benefit of all beings. And as a sign, as an auspicious sign, then he made this seat. And all the Karmapas, since the 2nd Karmapa, whenever they have shown the crown, they have shown it here, when they came to this place,
Here we're going on, the whole lot of us, all 6. And we're coming inside the stupa house, which we're seeing here, with a lot of very fine art on the walls, but most of it destroyed. In the middle is a stupa which is gold-plated and contains a tooth of the 2nd Karmapa, for which reason a lot of people who had toothache would come and lean their heads against the stupa and would get well. You could see that they haven't attacked it in the usual way with pickaxes. They've run in, placed some dynamite, blown the place up, and as soon as the Tibetans started coming to see what was going on, they were gone again. It's not the treatment that they gave in Sorbo, where everything was destroyed.
Walking here means that you won't fall into lower states of existence. Oh, good.
Yeah, Hannah looks really happy. And the monk is telling a lot of things about the 3 statues here, where the central one is from Siddha Rinpoche, the first Siddha Rinpoche. And the other two are from other great lamas. I don't remember who. So on the way back from Kamagun, we had to stay 3 days because the truck had broken down. They always break down. We were always lucky they didn't break down on the high passes. Actually, the motors they have are benzene motors with side ventilation, and it's a German construction from '34. And here we have a view into the courtyard. And you can see the different kinds of stairs that they use, and actually the people there really became our friends. Here comes the upper courtyard. And it's a way that a lot of people have been building all over the world, because they're building with the materials which are there.
Then
And here is the mother of the company,
Hello? Hello?
who is now being wakened up, and her reaction is totally natural. She's a very special woman. In a moment you will see Hannah and I were meditating somewhere. We were not involved, but you will see how our friends from the tour are washing them, giving them all kinds of fine ointments for hands. First they were amazed to see what modern soap could do to the color of their hands, right? And secondly, they really enjoyed having some nice smelling oils and perfumes on them. And here's the local beauty. The up-and-coming beauty, the daughter there, seems to have a happy mind. She probably have a really good life. And while they were asking for blessings upstairs, somebody slaughtered a sheep downstairs. That's how it works. And here they're getting it out of its good skin. Here we are back in Chamdo. Here comes People's Liberation Army again. We are too far from Lhasa for them to send us back, so we don't really care. And of course they can feel that, so they don't even bother us. Here are the Chinese areas that they built, much richer and much more beautiful. They built in China. A colonialist has to look nice, of course. But the Chinese have no contact with the Tibetans, and the Tibetans not with the Chinese. Oh, there were the toilets of the place we stayed at, the hotel we stayed at. They gave me constipation because I just couldn't go there. They were really evil. And now we are in a car again, and actually this part of the trip from Chamdo to Derge, we managed somehow to get hold of an old bus, and that was luxury. The mountains here are high. This is where the Himalayas start going north-south instead of east-west, and there we have to cross over some high passes. Some of the passes were nearly 18,000 feet. And here then we've come to Derge, and Derge has been badly destroyed. It used to be the main town of eastern Tibet, but after the Chinese really took the eastern third of Tibet, called Amdo and Kam, then it's a border town on the Chinese side. There is a beautiful place called Bakor, which is a Tibetan library where they print a lot of the texts. Here are some of the typical Derge style with wood upstairs and bricks or stones underneath, like they used to build in Göteborg in Sweden. And here you see the building of the Bakor, how people walk around. I'm just explaining some things about what's happening in the West. And you see the people, the Kampas, they're really the right kind. I'm telling what's happening in the West, how the Dharma is spreading, what Rinpoches have gone where. Han is And here you see the building of the Bakor, how people walk around clockwise, as we always do. And here's a newly built stupa, which is actually very well made. Another view over there, where mainly the Tibetan houses have flat roofs and the Chinese houses have pointed roofs. The Tibetans didn't know anything about aeroplanes and bombs, so they thought gigantic metal birds were flying through the valley and dropping eggs which exploded. So they were totally amazed. And one can still see the destruction in many places. Every Chinese and also Tibetan town has some big loudspeakers that are constantly noisy from 6 in the morning till 6 or 8 in the evening, and they really make noise. Propaganda music the whole time. Here's the owner of the hotel, the fat gentleman there. We thought he was on our side, but he probably was being paid by the Chinese. The police station. And now we are on our way from Derge to Kanse, and there we are really crossing some very high passes. And the one we are going over is evilly high. It's 5.6 kilometers high. It's just very high.
Wie viel kostet der? Was? Wie viel kostet die Download? Frage gekriegt. Was? Ja, der warm! Schmeiß rein.
Der reizt speziell.
Hanna, mit den Downhosen gibt's kein Frieren mehr.
Was?
Mit den Downhosen gibt's kein Frieren mehr.
And here now we actually arrived in Kanse. Here you see some of the sides up to the Kanse Gumba, which was really erased, which was really destroyed. This part of Tibet they destroyed already in the winter of 50-51, when Mao Zedong was afraid of some of his generals who were too close to Peking or Beijing. He sent them into Tibet to get rid of them, and they then really laid waste Tibet. People come to the door, they knock on the door, they come in for a blessing. beautiful old Sakya monastery that also hasn't been destroyed. And to the left is a canopy, the banner of victory actually it's called. You see, nothing has been destroyed. It's an exquisite building. The Chinese left 13 out of 3,500, institutions and places, and this is also one of them. Here is one of the protectors, also a Mahakala form, really powerful. Here's a prayer wheel that's being used, and one visualizes that from the text and the mantras inside, a stream of light emanates out and it touches all beings and brings them every happiness. Just benefits them in every way. And here again we have some of those immense block houses which are really up to Swedish standard, they're very good. Here we are coming down, we're walking through town. And we walk by some people shooting pool. And here's some more views. And on the way there, we both had a real shock-like experience, Hannah and I, even though everything was totally dusty and we couldn't see a thing. There was a big castle, a silhouette like a lot of houses built together, so they became a castle, which totally took us in, which totally amazed us. And afterwards we found out that this was where the 16th Kammerpa had been born. It was a place called Adrupzang. It was a town of Denko where the archer Denma had once been standing. Here are some kids coming out of the monastery. And you see how natural they are, how relaxed and how easy and how really nice they are to be with. They are not treated softly. They are hit on the heads if they do something wrong, but because the system fits, they get confidence. And here then we're in another town which is actually like a jail town. People come from everywhere. They are ordered into work by police and officers, and the place has a really rough penal colony atmosphere. But the people want blessings just like everybody else. It's a joy to be able to give it to them. So Himalayan Tibetan Buddhism still functions. It functions in many places. It attracts people in the West because it is so evident that it benefits beings. And of course the people who are grown up with it don't want anything else. We think it's a great honor to have been told by the Kammerpa to spread Buddhism, especially in Central Europe, but also to go everywhere else and pass on whatever the teachings of the lineage is. And I hope very much that we may meet with you sometime, be it in some of our American centers or be it in Europe or anywhere else in the world. I really hope we shall be able to meet and share some of the good energies of the lineage together. So thank you very much and see you soon.